So hello and welcome to our talk entitled From Engineer to Business Leader, featuring Charlie Kawwas, one of our most accomplished alumni. This event kickstarts our inaugural Gina Cody School Day, a new and annual celebration that recognizes the achievements and successes of our students, alumni, faculty, and staff. My name is Nadia Bhuiyan. I'm the Vice Provost of Partnerships and Experiential Learning here at Concordia. I'm also a professor in the Gina Cody School of Engineering and Computer Science, and I'm happy to serve as your MC and moderator for this special celebration. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that Concordia's campuses are located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Ganeo'gehaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. Tiohtià:ke, or Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. Now, for those of you on social media, the hashtag for today's celebration is hashtag Gina Cody School. We encourage you to share your pride on your channels. You can record a video or post a message about what it means to you to be a part of the Gina Cody School. Or you can tag a student, professor, grad, or staff member who inspires you. GCS students and grads who post by midnight will be entered to win one of 20 prepaid Visa cards, each valued at $100. Visit concordia.ca/GCSday for more information. Coming up, we'll be presenting Charlie Kawwas with the 2020 Alumni of the Year Award, one of Concordia's most prestigious honors. Afterwards, Charlie and I will have a fireside chat to discuss his journey from engineer to Chief Operating Officer at Broadcom. But first, I'd like to invite Mourad Debbabi, Interim Dean of the Gina Cody School of Engineering and Computer Science, to say a few words. Over to you, Mourad.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhuiyan. Hi, everyone. I'm proud to welcome you all to this very first Gina Cody School Day. I hope it will become an annual tradition for all our students, faculty, staff, and alumni to come together and show our pride and support for our community and school. The Gina Cody School community is both special and exceptional. We have a lot to be proud of. We are one of the fastest growing faculties of engineering and computer science in Canada. With more than 10,000 students and 238 faculty members, we are now the largest engineering and computer science faculty in Quebec and one of the country's largest engineering schools. According to the 2021 Times Higher Education ranking, we rank in the top 201 engineering schools in the world. We embrace interdisciplinarity across our school. We are leading in many research fields such as smart cities, applied artificial intelligence, energy efficiency and renewable energies, sustainability, advanced manufacturing, cyber physical systems, cybersecurity, and surface engineering, just to name a few. We have also a strong research capacity in the field of aerospace with multiple initiatives to reduce the industry's environmental footprint. And a very important fact that is worth to mention, we are the very first engineering school in Canada to be named after a woman. This is a point of pride for me, and I'm sure it is a point of pride as well for everyone in our community. I think we are in a very special moment in our history. When I see the fabulous energy and the dedication of our students, faculty, and staff, all the energy that they are bringing to the table every day, I think this is only the beginning. I cannot wait to see what great things you will accomplish in your careers. Now, we are today here to honor one of our alumni, namely Dr. Charlie Kawwas. His career is truly remarkable, and he is a great role model for our students. I will leave to my colleagues the task of presenting Dr. Charlie Kawwas, but let me just say that we couldn't be prouder to count Charlie among our alumni. Charlie, you are a source of inspiration to all of us. And I would like to thank you for being here today. I want also to thank Gina Cody for being here today. Gina, your dedication and fantastic support to our school is remarkable. And you being here with Charlie is a proof how much of positive contribution our graduates can make to the society. I will now yield to Dr. Bhuiyan to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mourad. Now I'd like to invite the immediate past president of the Concordia University Alumni Association, or CUAA, Kim Fuller, to present the 2020 Alumni of the Year Award. Kim is a proud graduate of Concordia's Faculty of Fine Arts and served as president of the CUAA for 5 years. Although Kim stepped down as president in September, she remains an active and engaged member of the CUAA board. Kim?
Thank you, Nadia. It's an honor to be here and celebrate Gina Cody School Day and to recognize a remarkable graduate. Bienvenue à tous. Merci d'être ici parmi nous. Each year, the Concordia University Alumni Association recognizes the accomplishments and the efforts of some of our most outstanding grads. Winners are selected from a pool of more than 220,000 alumni, 51,000 students, as well as 6,000 faculty and staff. Our alumni recognitions awards are amongst Concordia's most prestigious honors. And today, it is my great pleasure to present our 2020 Alumnus of the Year Award to Charlie Kawwas. This award is presented to a graduate who has demonstrated professional excellence and community leadership. Charlie is the Chief Operating Officer at Broadcom, a major tech company based in the Silicon Valley, California, that is valued at more than $189 billion. As Chief Operating Officer, Charlie is responsible for an impressive range of the company's portfolio. He oversees global operations, which includes worldwide manufacturing, outsourcing, procurement, logistics, planning, and quality programs. If that wasn't enough, Charlie is in charge of sales for Broadcom's semiconductor and brocade storage networking businesses, and he oversees corporate marketing for all of Broadcom. Charlie is an engineer by trade, like many Concordians who are celebrating Gina Cody School Day. In fact, Charlie has 3 engineering degrees from Concordia, a bachelor in computer engineering, a master of applied sciences, and a PhD, both in electrical and computer engineering. From his time as an undergrad, it was clear that Charlie was going to go far. At his convocation, Charlie received the Computer Engineering Medal, presented for the most outstanding student graduating in the department. And he won the Chait Medal, which is awarded to the highest ranked undergrad from the entire faculty. It was in Montreal that Charlie started his career as an engineer with Nortel. He was eventually promoted to product line manager for the company's optical Ethernet portfolio. In 2005, he joined Agir to lead the enterprise networking business as director of marketing. After a series of acquisitions and promotions, Charlie became senior vice president of worldwide sales at LSI, and then chief sales officer at Avago, and then Broadcom. Under his leadership, Broadcom's annual revenues have grown from $2 billion in 2013 to nearly $24 billion in 2020. For his outstanding achievements as an engineer and a business leader, for being an incredible ambassador for Concordia and a role model for our entire community, we are proud to recognize Charlie Kawwas as the Alumnus of the Year for 2020. Congratulations, Charlie. Bravo. Félicitations. The floor is yours to say a few words.
Merci beaucoup, Kim. And first of all, I wanted to share the award that you sent to me here in Silicon Valley in San Jose. With that, let me please say a few words. Dr. Gina Cody, Dean Debbabi, fellow Concordia colleagues and alumni. It's an absolute pleasure and honor for me to receive such recognition. Thank you, Concordia, and a big thanks to the Alumni Association. Let me start by recognizing and thanking everyone who helped me get here, especially my parents, my wife, my aunt, my family, friends, and Broadcom colleagues. Thank you. شكرا لوطني الأم فلسطين التي علمتني أن الظروف والضغوطات القاسية لا تمنعنا من تحقيق ما نصبو إليه، بل الإرادة والتصميم والتأقلم هم المكونات الرئيسية للنجاح. Growing up in Palestine, I learned that hardships don't prevent us from achieving our aspirations. Rather, will, determination, and adaptability are the main ingredients for success. I'm very thankful to Canada and Concordia for accepting me as an international student, considering that it was very hard for me to join and finish, given that my high school was not completed due to the unrest in my country. Je suis très fier d'être Canadien, Québécois et Montréalais. Vous m'aviez accueilli à bras ouverts dès le départ et je n'oublierai jamais votre support. Je suis très chanceux d'être ici parmi vous. I'm also thankful for my great mentors I chose throughout my career, starting at an early age with my uncle, who's a fellow Concordia PhD graduate, my amazing Concordia professors and staff, and to the industry leaders and CEOs. I chose Canada and Concordia. I adapted to Nortel and Broadcom, and I choose to live my life with integrity and a fierce desire to make a difference. Your choices will dictate your success and, yes, shape your future. I'm confident our Concordia graduates will adapt, thrive, make very wise decisions, and fly to higher grounds while making significant contributions to our communities. Thank you and merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Charlie, and congratulations on such a well-deserved recognition. I wish we could hear the thunderous applause. I'm sure it's out there virtually though. So now we're going to move on to the conversation portion of the event. And for those of you who are in attendance, if you have any questions you'd like to ask Charlie, please submit them in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to get to them during our Q&A. Okay, so let's get started, Charlie. So we just heard your very impressive resume, including your 3 engineering degrees from Concordia. Can you tell us about how those degrees have helped you to achieve success as a chief operating officer at Broadcom, which, as Kim mentioned, is one of Silicon Valley's major tech companies?
First off, Nadia, thank you for planning such a great event. I'm very proud of such an event. And as I said earlier on, I'm very proud to be invited to speak at such a first event. I think it's really important to bring the various leaders and alumni of Concordia to give back and share their insights with the next generation of leaders. Now to my degrees, especially my 3 engineering degrees at Concordia. In a highly technical field that I'm in, especially engineering, it's really important and critical and very fundamental to get the hands-on training and the technical know-how and experience to become successful in this space. And my engineering degrees actually gave me this. To give you an example, if we look at the world around us, the world runs on tech. Look at the event that we have. It's all enabled actually specifically by electrical computer engineering and computer science. So engineering is at the heart of this world. The world moves fast. This is one of the things that I learned, and I think engineering teaches us how to come up with solutions faster, better, quicker every single day. And thirdly, the world is complex. And one of the most important things I learned from the 3 degrees in engineering and at Concordia, how do we solve highly complex problems? So when I look at the 3 degrees and I see where I'm at today, I couldn't have been here without this strong fundamental base that I learned from these 3 degrees. And I continue to use actually, not just for my career, but for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I agree. Engineering does help us to learn how to move and adapt quickly to situations. And you touched on experiential learning, hands-on learning, and Concordia has a history of prioritizing this type of learning. Can you talk about how that part of your Concordia experience helped you succeed as an engineer, and how important was that for you?
Well, this is actually one of the most important things that attracted me also to Concordia. And I think that was very critical in finding my first job, second job, and getting promoted throughout my career. Just to share a few, one of the key things I benefited from is the hands-on and lab work that we have at Concordia. Now, I did my degree over 3 decades ago. I'm sure the labs, which I've actually seen recently since my son is at Concordia, have tremendously improved, and they have state-of-the-art technology. But I tell you, picking some of my key projects and some of the key lab work that I've done were pivotal to finding my first job. and continue throughout my master's and PhD, the work that I've done at Concordia to get me promoted and seek even better jobs and higher ranking jobs throughout my career.
Great, yeah. So students should take one thing away, and that is like picking or the selection of your projects are critical, right, to your future career?
Very critical. I was very blessed and lucky with the mentors I chose and the guidance they gave me. Picking certain projects and technologies that are relevant to the industry and the research that's being done now is so critical to your success, finding your first job as a graduate of Concordia and continuing to improve and get promoted at work. So that's absolutely critical. And I've lived it throughout the 3 degrees that I've done. My undergrad, the project was pivotal for my first job. My master's, it helped me actually move within Nortel and get promoted. And my PhD, when I was at a year, helped me get to the next level and get another promotion.
Great, wow, that's a great takeaway for our students. So you oversee a very intimidating number of portfolios at Broadcom, and Kim talked about these. So you're responsible, again, repeating what Kim has said, you're responsible for global operations, and that includes worldwide manufacturing, outsourcing, procurement and logistics, planning and quality programs. You're also responsible for sales of the semiconductor and Brocade storage networking businesses. And as if that's not enough, you also just happen to oversee corporate marketing for all of Broadcom. So how do you juggle all of these seemingly very different areas? And more importantly, where do you even find the time?
So it comes down to a couple of basic and simple things, believe it or not. One is pick something you like and enjoy. I think this is really important for all the students at Concordia. Make sure that what you're doing is something you're enjoying, because if you're not, it's going to be very difficult to be successful at it. And if you enjoy it and you like it, you'll actually, it doesn't matter how much work you have. I love what I'm doing, and every day I get up early in the morning and very pleased to come to work. Actually, physically today, I am at the office despite the pandemic. Same thing over the weekend. So first thing I recommend to everybody is first, you have to pick something you like, you enjoy, that you find is challenging for you so that you can learn. Second, be disciplined. I think this is a really important thing that has helped me throughout my career. Plan and always plan. If you don't plan your calendar, other people's plans become your calendar. And I think this is something that has completely shifted and changed my career. I didn't have it at the beginning. I actually learned that throughout my career. So that's an absolute fundamental element and recipe for success, which is being disciplined and planning. And thirdly, I would say surround yourself with the right people. And I underscore the word right people. So what does it mean to have the right people around you? The right people, first of all, have to be competent. Make sure they know what they're talking about. Secondly, they have to complement you with an E, not with an I. And that's really important. You want people around you who can supplement your knowledge and know-how. And then thirdly, you want people around you who can actually work well with you and you can enjoy working with them. So they team up very well. That's exactly what I've done, and that's how I manage such a large portfolio. I love what I'm doing. I'm very disciplined, and I'm making sure that the people around me are people I like to work with. They're very competent, and very importantly, they complement me.
Yeah, that's really great advice, and it's what I tell my students as well: is do what you love doing, so that you wake up every day excited to do it. Otherwise, it's not going to be easy.
Correct.
So you mentioned your son, and so attending Concordia seems to be a bit of a tradition for your family. You have several family members, including your son, who's currently in the Gina Cody School, who've attended this university. How did that happen, and why did you choose Concordia?
Yeah, this is definitely a family university for us, and we're very proud of Concordia. Growing up in Bethlehem, Palestine, when I was little, I always remembered my uncles and my older cousins speaking highly of Concordia. And one of my goals was to actually get a higher education so that I can help my parents my family, and my country. And so Concordia gave me that opportunity to come to Canada and study here. And when I first came here, it was quite difficult because I came in as an international student, as I said before, and I had not completed my high school. And I came with only enough money for my first semester, which was the life savings of my parents. And that was the most difficult time of my life. Luckily, I ended up here with some of my family, specifically my aunt, helped me here, and I lived with her for 8 months. Then I moved into Concordia residence, which was a great chapter of my life, and helped me learn English as well. But then I met my wife at Concordia. My other cousins joined me at Concordia. My sister joined me at Concordia. And as you said, now my son is at Concordia. And so for us, Concordia is something that we're very proud of as a family. We definitely consider Concordia part of the family. And without Concordia, I wouldn't be here. That's for sure.
That's an amazing story. You've come a long way. That's incredible. And was there something in your childhood or in your upbringing that shaped your passion for engineering?
Yeah, I would say I remember the first computer that my uncle bought me, and it was an 8-bit processor that you can save your file on a recording tape, not even a disk at the time. And that and programming that computer was my passion. We couldn't afford to buy a video game. So I actually, at the age of 12, I designed my first video game. And that really started my passion for engineering, how these electronics work, and software ultimately.
Wow. And do you have a favorite memory from your time at Concordia that you'd like to share?
Yeah, definitely. I think lots of great memories at Concordia, but one of my best memories is the time I've spent in the labs that I've talked about that gave me lots of hands-on experience. But there's a special story, if I may share with everyone here. As I was going through university, I was actually trying to take more than 5 courses. In many semesters, I took 6+ courses to catch up and finish fast so that I could work and help my family and my brother and my sister. And as I took more and more courses, I was able to do become a lab instructor while being in the undergrad program. And I didn't realize that the students in that lab would be my colleagues. And some of those were pretty mean to me because I was an immigrant. I didn't speak English well, so they were making fun of me. And I remember that moment vividly when I opened the door of the lab and these students saw me and they were shocked. And you should have seen the look on their face. It was priceless. They were very nice to me, of course, for the rest of that semester. I gave them a bit of a hard time, but they all passed and did well. But that was a memorable moment for me. And learning that if you study hard, you work hard, it doesn't matter who bullies you or bothers you, you can do well.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. Did you have you mentioned mentoring earlier. Did you have a role model at Concordia that helped you succeed? Or I think you mentioned your uncle was a mentor for you.
Yes, my uncle was definitely my first mentor, and I'm very proud of his achievements and all the help he's given me. But one of the staff Concordia professors who really helped me in my 4th year, first selecting my project, which was, like I said, that project was so important, such that actually the first 2 jobs that I had offers for were because of that project. And then I did my master's with him, and the project we picked and the thesis helped me find the next job, and the same thing for my PhD, which I've done with him as well. And that's Dr. Reza Soleimani. The ironic part is he's actually teaching my son, and my son took a course, I believe, last semester with him. So he's definitely played a key role in my success, and I definitely want to acknowledge him too.
Right. So mentors are very helpful to students if they can find the right ones.
I would say mentors are critical, and you use the right word, which is fine. I believe, and this is my experience, I believe that you have to choose your mentor. If you wait for somebody to come to you and offer you a mentorship, first of all, it's probably not going to happen. But even if it happens, there's a high likelihood it's the wrong person mentoring you. And hence, depending on the conditions you have, what you would like to learn, I believe it's absolutely critical to find your mentors. And it's okay to have more than one mentor, by the way. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to change your mentors as you go out through your career and through your life. So as I said, my first mentor was my uncle. But as I came to Concordia, I looked for new mentors. As I started working in every single job, every couple of years, I've actually selected and chose different mentors. So having a mentor has been critical for my success. Even now, I have a mentor, and I go to that person and say, you're going to mentor me. So you're never too old or too perfect to have a mentor. It's always great to learn and have one. So for me, it has worked very well.
So for our students, selecting a mentor, what would they do? Would they just go to a professor maybe that they look up to and simply ask them to be a mentor?
That's one choice. One choice for me in my fourth year, for example, I went to Dr. Sulaimani. I said, I'm looking for a project and here are some ideas and I'd like you to mentor me. And he graciously agreed to do that. That's one way. Another way, you can actually ask a lab instructor that you've been nice to, hopefully, not mean to previously, but a lab instructor would be a great mentor, especially for hands-on experience. A student experience. And you would also be a great mentor as well.
Yeah, great ideas. So the title of today's event is From Engineer to Business Leader. So while these fields may seem far apart, we've seen several of our own engineering grads go on to enjoy great success in business, including Gina Cody, Faye Arjamandi, and yourself, of course. So what are the skills or experiences or values that you acquired from engineering that helped you and were useful for business?
So fundamentally, engineering teaches us how to analyze and solve complex problems and predict outcomes. That last piece is extremely difficult to do, especially as you want to run a business. So the three engineering degrees for me have been absolutely critical to learning how do you analyze a business situation, especially in a technical environment? How do you solve the challenges and problems you face? And ultimately, which is the most difficult thing to do, is how do you predict the outcomes? And I believe that's one of the key reasons why you see a lot of CEOs of tech companies have an engineering or a computer science degree.
Yeah, so we do get equipped with a lot of methods and tools to help us with those types of activities. And can you talk about your journey from engineering to business? Was there like a specific turning point for you, or was it a gradual transformation as you learned more and more about the business, you became more interested?
So as for my journey, I would say I started as an engineer, given my background and some of the stories I've shared with you. Very proud to be an engineer, and I've spent time in different areas of engineering. So I've done hardware design, I've done software design, I've done testing, verification, manufacturing. And I believe that really helped me have such a broad knowledge of what it means to be an end-to-end engineer. That took me about 5 years. And my advice at this point in time, usually within the first 5 to 10 years as an engineer, you will need to decide, do you want to continue to be an engineer and pick a specific field and go deeper and become an expert and ultimately a fellow or a head of engineering? Or do you want to pivot towards the business side? And for me, it was a turning point. And the turning point happened about 5 years into engineering, where I was asked to actually travel from Montreal to the US to meet some of my customers. And obviously, these were technical meetings for engineers. But I realized as you interact with the customers and you convince them to adopt and love our technology and buy our technology, and even more importantly, give us feedback about what do we need to do to enhance our features, capabilities, and roadmap, I realized that a combination of an engineer and a business track is extremely powerful. And I started shifting towards the business side. I went from a pure engineer to a product management role, product marketing, sales, and so forth. And for me, that turning point and that combination and the broad knowledge I had in engineering were really helpful for my success.
So you had a very specific turning point. Now for students who graduate and work in a company and don't have that opportunity, do you think it's a good idea for them to seek opportunities to work in different units and different functions to kind of test their interests in business?
Absolutely. I would say also based on my experience, usually 18 months, 24 months into a job, it's a good idea to start expanding your horizon and scope and look for another job. Not necessarily leave the company. As a matter of fact, I only changed the company I worked for once in my career in about 3 decades, only one time, but I've changed my jobs many times. Usually you get that feeling once your learning curves start slowing down. Usually in the first 6 to 12 months, especially the first 6 months, you go through an exponential learning curve. And you find after 18 months that starts to plateau. That's usually a sign for you to say, okay, I've done this for about 1.5 years, 2 years. Let me now look at another opportunity in the engineering and technical field. And I've constantly done that. Even when I shifted towards the business side, every 2 to 3 years, I've done this. Going through the journey with Avago and Broadcom, I was actually doing this annually, which is very difficult. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of learning. You never get to plateau a little bit to rest and refuel. And so the reason why I pick around 18 to 24 months, I think it's a great chance for somebody to learn hard. First 6 months, give back at least 1 year or 1.5 years, and then move on to something else.
Okay, great. Engineers develop strong technical skills, right? That's what we do in our programs, but not necessarily soft skills that are very essential for success in the business world. And probably a lot of people out there who are nodding yes right now. But how did you develop your soft skills? Were they innate, or did you actually have to work on acquiring them? Did you go and seek out opportunities to develop those skills?
Yeah, I think the best place where I learned my soft skills is living at Concordia residence and Loyola campus. It was an amazing experience for me. I was about 19 years old, and I didn't really speak English well. And so I was surrounded by hundreds of students who spoke English, and I had to interact with all of them. I found an opportunity to be a handyman my dad was a carpenter. So I took after him, and I did that. And that gave me more opportunity to work and talk with people on campus. A year after that, I applied to become a residence assistant. And that job specifically really gave me the training and the help around a lot of the soft skills. How do you deal with these young students? How do you ensure that there's discipline? How do you handle emergencies? How do you take first aid programs? And I have to tell you, I've done it for 2 years, the last 2 years of my undergrad. That gave me a massive training for soft skills. So my advice on soft skills is don't wait for the engineering degree to teach you that. The engineering degree is not going to teach you your soft skills. There might be 1 or 2 courses that could help that. Luckily, you have so many incredible tools online right now, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or other venues. Use these and use them to get a lot of that training and interact with other people. Try to do other jobs that are not in engineering. I just use my example as a residence assistant. It was absolutely the most important element that helped me in my soft skills.
It's probably important for students to try to get out of their comfort zone as well, to develop these skills. You talked earlier about choosing mentors for yourself, not only as a student, but throughout your career. Do you also mentor others?
Yes, I actually do mentor others. And believe it or not, I don't seek to mentor people. It just doesn't come to us naturally. But there are few cases where I've selected a few people where I said, it'll be great if we spend more time together, once a month typically. But I do have a couple now at Broadcom and one person outside Broadcom who I mentor, and we meet monthly for 30 minutes, maximum 1 hour, obviously over Zoom or some sort of a WebEx tool. And we spend time on sometimes business topics, technical topics, or just general topics overall. So I enjoy it, and I do it with a few people, and it's a lot of fun for me. And I actually learn a lot from them too, by the way.
Yeah, it's a two-way relationship, I think. Yeah,
absolutely.
Probably a lot of students right now wishing that you could mentor them. So last week we celebrated International Women's Day. And as many of us know, engineering and computer science are two fields where we still have a long way to go before we achieve gender parity. What are some of the things that tech companies should be doing to attract and retain more women in these fields?
Let me start by saying we do have a lot of work ahead of us, Nadia. You're absolutely right. I am actually the exec sponsor at Broadcom for ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. All three topics are very important, but if you look at the S, social, diversity is at the heart of that. And if you look today at our society, 50% of the population are women. But if you look at engineering, it's probably 20% are in engineering. And if you look at the engineering women working in the field today, it's unfortunately as low as probably 13% on average. And so we do have a lot of work ahead of us, at least here in the Bay Area, but in general, I would say the tech companies that I've been working with realize this is something we have to focus on. And we are actually focusing on it and applying more resources, people, and investments to it. Just to share a couple of the things that I think are important for a company or an enterprise that a company should do. One is you have to start with your data. You need to understand where your company is at, what's the mix that you have. Then you need to start putting certain programs in place. Some of these programs could be annually training the employees on unconscious biases. We all have it. And it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, we have been brought up to have these biases. So you need to put in very simple 1 hour training programs, maybe that you could do annually. Another element that we're doing is sponsoring women at work. Let's bring these phenomenal women and leaders as examples to the rest of the enterprise. When you hire people, ensure that you have diversity-friendly programs, meaning ensure that you have, out of the 3 or 4 or 5 people interviewing the candidates, ensure you have 2 or 3 women part of that committee. And many of these programs that I believe many companies should be doing. But I wanted to share also a couple of examples. One is last year, Broadcom was recognized to have actually more than 33% of our board members being women. And we've received an award for that, and that's something we're very proud of. Another thing, just a month ago, we were also recognized that we, a part of the Fortune 500 companies in the world, Broadcom is top 5, where we have more than 40% of the C-suite represented by women. And I'm very proud of that. Lastly, I guess I would say on a personal note, I have 3 daughters. And my 3 daughters are interested in STEM programs. And I'm optimistic about where we're going and what we're going to do about it. And I personally think that's something we should work on. And I'm working on it as part of being the exec sponsor at my company.
Right, that's amazing. Those are incredible numbers, especially for a tech company. So congratulations on that. That's amazing. I'll go with one last question, do a little time check, and then we can move on to the Q&A portion. So speaking about diversity again, so a lot of studies have shown that diverse teams are more innovative. They outperform those with less diversity, and very often there's a positive impact on the bottom line. So, and we've heard about examples of AI or facial recognition software that takes on the biases of the programmers. And what role do you see diversity playing in the tech industry? Do you see any major trends occurring in the near future?
Yes, I do, and I think it's important, as I mentioned, with some of the programs that I think companies should put in place, but at least we're putting in place. One of the key things that I think every company needs at this point in time is that training. It starts with that training, because if you do not admit that these numbers and facts that I mentioned earlier on are a challenge for us, you can never have people support any of the initiatives that I mentioned, or even, I'm sure there are many more. So my view, start understanding the composition of your company, put these training programs in place. And as a matter of fact, when I typically put training programs in place, I actually do quizzes to make sure that people listen to these programs and took these programs, because they're not in-person classes anymore. And I believe that's important. The unconscious bias is so important. A lot of my VPs or directors or managers, if they want to hire an engineer, if that engineer is an architect, for example, many of them talk about that person as a man. And that's not that they do that on purpose, but that's the unconscious bias that I think we need to change. But implementing a lot of the programs that I've talked about and having an inclusive environment is really important. And I think these are the elements that I believe, as you get more engineers who are aware of these things, as these engineers work on AI and machine learning chips or software, these will get embedded into their designs and thinking and mindset and outcome ultimately. And so I believe these are some of the examples that I think we should be doing. We are doing a lot of these at Broadcom today.
Great, that's good to hear. Charlie, I wish we could keep on talking here, but we're at the point where we need to start taking questions from the audience. So thanks for that great conversation. I'm just going to take a moment to have a look. And so here we go. We have a question from Sunidhi Sharma. So congratulations, sir. Could you please give us some advice on how one can adapt and grow in the industry, especially being an international student?
Yeah. One of the most famous quotes that I saw that actually made me realize part of the reasons why I was successful is adaptability, is actually a Charles Darwin quote, which says, it's not the hardest or the smartest species that survives, but it's that's most adaptable to the environment. And as an international student, when I came in Canada and Montreal, I really didn't speak English or French. I knew few words of English. I knew few words of French. Actually, my French at the time was better. That's actually why I decided to join Concordia, to not only the family side, but it's also an English university, and in engineering, English is important. So I had to adapt to that environment. As I said, initially I lived with my aunt, which was great. And I'm grateful till this day for having her take me into her home with her family. But until I moved to the residence, I couldn't really adapt into the Montreal, Quebecois, or Canadian culture. The same thing happened to me with my first job. And you have to work hard. It's great if you're smart, but my views, these two things are secondary to adaptability. And let me stress one thing on adaptability. It's the rate of adaptability is what I believe will become a differentiator for you. So for me personally, I realized after actually 20 years, that's when I realized that. I didn't know that throughout, I was just doing it instinctively. But after 20 years of my career, I realized that I am extremely adaptable. So the rate of adaptability is very high. And that's one thing, by the way, you're not born with. That's one thing you train yourself to do. And most people, when we're asked to change something, we don't like it. we resist it. I embrace it. And one of the things I'd like to share with you as an international student, embrace the changes that you see. For example, the pandemic that forced us last February or March, a year ago, to go virtual. I've embraced that immediately, and I've asked my employees to all drive video meetings with our customers. And I actually tracked that. And it was amazing because I saw some of these employees adapted to this, embraced it, and are very successful today. And others just turned off their video and didn't want to do this, and slowly, unfortunately, are moving behind. So my advice would be definitely adapt to the environment, embrace change, and train yourself to increase the rate of adaptability.
That's so important because things just change so quickly, right? You have to find ways to keep up.
Correct.
Thank you. So question number 2 is from Asvar Adib. Congratulations, Charlie. Your success is so inspiring, especially for current students like us. I was wondering about an aspect. Did hardship or challenging scenarios in your early life make you more resilient and committed to finding the right path for progress? Thank you.
Definitely. Growing up, as I mentioned, in my home country, Palestine, was not easy. To the point that schools closed, to the point that, unfortunately, some of my classmates and friends died at a young age. And so these hardships made me a lot stronger, a lot more determined, and increased my will to succeed and never give up. So I would say if you find yourself going through hardships, whether it's at a young age or honestly later in life, I've seen people handle this in 2 ways. One is you become negative and a pessimist and look at the half empty cup or glass. And that's definitely not me. I always look at the half full or even quarter full. And when I was young, it was 1% full. It was almost empty. But I realized that there's only upside. And that's a lot of what I pass on to my children, my colleagues here at work, and I'd love to pass that on to all of you. So never give up. If you like what you're doing, and you can work on the will and the determination, as I said earlier on, eventually you will succeed. You will find a way, you'll become really good at it, and you'll adapt and you'll succeed. So definitely, as these hardships either hit you in the past or hitting you right now, my advice would be never to give up.
I'm just seeing here how much of an inspiration you are to our students. So thank you. I'll just keep on going with the questions. So question number 3 is from Federico Sanchez. How important is the choice of country to success? When should someone consider moving to pursue a business or a career?
I think it's important, but it's not the most important thing. I do think it's important. And I had a choice when I was 18, what country to go to. So I had a choice between Canada, for example, at the time was the Soviet Union, and India was the 3rd country where I had scholarships. I did have opportunities in France and the US. When I was 18, and I went to my father and my mother and I said, look, we can't afford the US or Canada. So let me start process of elimination and look at other opportunities. And both my parents, especially my father, said, look, if you want to study in engineering, you need to go to either Canada or the US. And we couldn't afford to go to the US. Canada actually was my first choice because of my aunt and my uncle and relatives who were there. And Concordia, remember, it's a family university. So for me, Canada was a phenomenal choice. One, due to the family and the sort of comfort in Concordia and Montreal. 2, the Canadian culture is something I'm very, very proud of, and I'm very proud to be Canadian as well. It's an inclusive culture. And that made a huge difference for me, given where I grew up, where unfortunately, depending on your race or religion. There's a lot of discrimination. Whereas when you're in Canada, there's a lot less of that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Of course, you'll see this anywhere you go in the world, but I think it's very welcoming. And now, being in California and Silicon Valley, it's also, I would say, a great environment to be in as well, and it's an inclusive environment. This is it's the magnet of, I would say, some of the best people in tech, especially in software and silicon, coming from all over the world. So I believe the country of choice is important, but it's not the most important thing.
Thank you, Charlie. Just a comment here, Charlie, you're so inspiring, and I've captured a number of your valuable comments to bring with me in the areas I work, and that's from Patricia Marshall. Many other comments like that. So somebody, you've talked a lot about mentoring, and somebody is asking from Anis Lunis, could you please expand on the impact that being mentored had on your career and personal life? Thank you.
Definitely. I'll give you an example. When I was at Nortel, my mentor at the time, I actually selected him as a mentor. And he was not somebody I was working for, by the way. A lot of people think, by the way, mentors equals your direct manager. That could be a choice, but that's, or your professor, but that does not have to be the choice. So in that case, and by the way, this was an absolutely important moment in my career, this story. I remember that day where I went to him and I said, I wasn't actually an engineer. Remember the story that I told you? I was an engineer and I was about to pivot into the business world, and I had two opportunities. And these two opportunities, one was in program management and the other one was in product management. And both hiring managers were not my mentor. My mentor was a different person who's not involved in the hiring. And I went to him and I was asking his opinion of which job should I take? And I was leaning more towards program management because it's closer to engineering. I knew what it is. I've worked with other program managers and I was able to see how I can add immediate value to it. And that person gave me a phenomenal advice and convinced me to switch to the product management side. And that completely changed my career. So that's just a story where a mentor who's not your direct boss can actually really change your career because of their experiences. I'm not saying that this would have been a mistake, but probably for me to get to where I'm at today, it probably would have added another 3-4 years to my career. And so that's hopefully a story that can help in this example.
Great. Thank you, Charlie. So we have another question from Bahar Karimi. Is studying a PhD beneficial for success in industry? I guess a lot of people wonder if you're overqualified if you get a PhD and you want to go into industry.
I would say it depends on your thesis. If you pick a topic that is just pure research, it will not help you in the industry. If you pick a topic that is relevant to the industry, as one of the questions, Nadia, you asked me earlier on, how do you pick these projects and your thesis topics? If you pick something that's relevant to the industry and where the industry is going and how you can contribute to that industry, this would absolutely become a differentiator and people would seek you to come work for their companies. And even when you're working in these companies, you are going to get a lot of credibility given your knowledge and know-how in that space. It happened to me 3 times. As I said, it happened to me in my undergrad because I picked a specific project. It happened to me in my master's. Now, in my master's, I picked a topic I was working on, which helped. And when I was thinking of doing my PhD, many people convinced me not to do a PhD, but rather go do an MBA. Now, I have a bit of a sentimental reason why I did my PhD. One, I promised my parents that I will do it when I left Palestine. And then 2, when I was about to stop doing it, both my wife and uncle told me that we don't have quitters. Don't stop your PhD and go do your MBA. Finish your PhD, then go do your MBA. I finished my PhD. I never did my MBA. and I've learned that element throughout work. But my PhD, in my case, was absolutely phenomenal, responsible till this day for getting me credibility and success and promotions at work.
Great. So this actually is leading to the next question from Garrett Austin, who asked if you invested in any classes outside of engineering to complement your business acumen. So you didn't do an MBA, and would you recommend an MBA for engineering students who want to go into business?
I would. I would recommend an MBA once you get to that point, potentially after 3 or 4 years in engineering. Getting a business degree, I find, especially if you want to pivot into the business world versus staying into the engineering and technical track, I think an MBA is very useful. If I go back 10, 15 years, would have done it, probably. But I would say if that's a path you desire to take, getting an MBA earlier in your career would actually be a great boost for your career.
I think we have time for just a couple more questions. We have another one from Saba Sadri. So, hi Charlie, congratulations. Could you please give us some tips on how to grow and move up in organizations and achieve the full potential that someone is capable of?
If I may borrow some of the elements I mentioned earlier on, Nadia, because I think they're relevant to this question. Remember what I said about surrounding yourself with the right people. Remember, there are three sort of distinctions of these people. They want them to be competent, you want them to supplement you or complement you, and you want them to team up with you. That, for me, was absolutely fundamental to being successful, but also with success comes the promotion throughout my career. And so what I would recommend is don't try to do it as a lone soldier. It's very difficult. It's doable. It's not that it's not doable. I think you can accelerate your success if you surround yourself with the right people who can help you learn more, who can help you become more successful. And as you become successful, that whole team becomes successful, either with you or independently on their own. So my advice would be, whether you're in university doing your thesis work or finishing your undergrad or at work, my advice to all of you would be, I remember my last 3 years in my undergrad, I had a group of people around me where we worked together and we complemented each other and we supported each other. And that, for me, made us the 1 + 1 = 3, or the 1 + 1 + 1 = 5, or greater than 5. I strongly advise that. And it's not easy. You're going to make mistakes as you pick some of these people. Some of them, it just might not work out, but that's okay. That's part of making mistakes and learning. So my advice is, surround yourself with the right people, adapt, and I think eventually you'll see this actually will accelerate your success.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions. And I just want to thank everybody for the questions that they've posed. Unfortunately, not enough time to get to all of these great questions. But I want to say thank you, Charlie, so much for having been such a great guest and for your excellent insight and perspective on the world of tech and business, and for being such an inspiration, not only to our students, but to everyone. It was a real pleasure for me to have this conversation with you. And so we move on to our final speaker this afternoon, who really needs no introduction. It's Gina Cody. Gina Cody is the benefactor of the Gina Cody School of Engineering and Computer Science, the first school of its kind named after a woman in North America and one of the first globally. No stranger to being the first, Gina was also the first woman to receive a PhD in building engineering at Concordia in 1989. She received many awards and accolades over the years, including the Order of Canada just a few months ago. Gina is currently one of the co-chairs of the Campaign for Concordia and sits on Concordia's Board of Governors, to name just a few of her current responsibilities. So now, without further delay, Gina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nadia. And thank you, Charlie, for sharing your experience and knowledge with us. Wow, I was blown away. The discussions was amazing. It was a fascinating and valuable conversation. That's all I can say. As an engineer and former business leader myself, much of what you spoke about resonated with me. And bravo on your Alumnus of the Year award. It is very well deserving. I had the honor of winning Alumna of the Year in 2011, and it was a special moment for me. To everyone in attendance, thank you for joining us to help celebrate the inaugural Gina Cody School Day. This is a day to celebrate you, our incredible community of outstanding students, faculty, staff, and alumni. You are the reason I am so proud to lend my name to this school, and every day you give me reason to be even prouder. This is a community bursting with talent and potential, a community that goes and does great things, yet also remembers to give back and help others succeed as well. A community that achieves success with humility and generosity, yet does not rest on its laurels. Charlie is a great example of that. While it is wonderful to be humble, I encourage you to take pride. If you haven't yet done so, please share your pride on social media. Use the Gina Cody School hashtag and let the world know that there are great things happening at this school. If not to celebrate your own accomplishment, take the time to give a shout out to someone from our community who inspires you. This past year has been difficult, I know, but this community has shown great strength, resilience, and positivity. Take this day to acknowledge a fellow student or colleague who has given you strength. Recognize a professor who has gone above and beyond. It will let everyone know, takes only a few minutes, but it will make their day. And if you need more inspiration, don't forget to join us at 5:30 this afternoon for an exciting student showcase. 6 undergraduate and graduate students will be giving us an exclusive look at some of the projects and research they are working on. Use the link in the chat box to register. Hope to see you there. Thank you. Merci. À bientôt.